everybody, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about my 29-gallon planted aquascape, and this is going to be part 4 of my multi-part series on this aquarium. And this video is going to be all about choosing the fish for your aquascape. And I'm going to be, for the most part, skipping over a lot of the basics of choosing fish, and I'm just going to approach it from how do I pick fish for my aquascapes to get the most out of the aquascape? How do I pick fish to get the most detailed, get the most natural look, and to make sure the fish work with the flow of the aquascape, the planted aquarium, whatever your aquarium might be. A lot of these you can use on just any aquarium, although I usually do this a lot more with my aquascaped aquariums, my display tanks, if you will. And a lot of this for me all begins with the planning of the initial aquarium. So when I'm thinking of the aquarium in my head and I'm trying to come up with ideas for the design, the flow, whatever it is I'm trying to create, I usually like to take into consideration what are the fish doing. Sometimes I'll have a specific fish in mind, and I can plan an aquascape around a specific fish. But oftentimes I usually will just think of what are the fish doing, right? When I look at the aquarium in my mind, what are the fish doing? Are they swimming out in the front? Are they hanging out on the bottom? Are they swimming around this driftwood? Are they really outgoing? Are they more secluded? Do they like to hide more? I'll think of all of those kinds of things and I'll plan that around my aquascape. And slowly, as I'm piecing everything together, I'll start to come up with a list of fish in my mind. Now, there's lots of different ways to think about this. When I'm choosing fish, usually I like to think of it in terms of I want fish to inhabit all areas of the aquarium. I don't want to get 3 or 4 different types of tetras and have all these tetras kind of just group up together and that's my entire aquarium, right? I want to have maybe one type of tetra and have that tetra swim around in the front or go, from one side of the aquarium to the other in a tight school. Then I'll want to have another fish that does a different thing and another fish that hangs out in a different spot. Now, oftentimes I hear people talk about the aquarium in terms of like thirds, right? So you have your bottom third, you have your kind of middle third, and your top third. And oftentimes you can find fish that will inhabit those different areas of your aquarium. Now, if you have a really shallow tank, like a 20 long, even like a 10-gallon, you may not quite get that top third. It might just be the bottom third. It might be like, just the bottom part of the aquarium and then like kind of the top or the open water part. But with this 29, I definitely have those nice thirds at the bottom, the middle, the top. And so I can think about, I want to make sure I choose fish that are going to inhabit each area of this aquarium. Now, with this aquascape, I also have lots of caves, I have lots of rocks, I have big piles of driftwood, I have lots of other plants in the background, and these are all going to provide areas that fish can live in, and they can hide in, they can make this into their home. So I can also choose fish, not necessarily in terms of thirds, right, the bottom, middle, and top. I can also think of it in terms of almost like an ecological niche. Right, I have fish that could hide in the driftwood, fish that are going to eat off the surface, fish that will hang out in the caves, fish that will hide in among the plants. So I can think of it in terms of that as well. Now I want to break this down just a bit more. So when I think of the aquarium in thirds, I want to make sure that I have fish that are going to be focused around those areas. And oftentimes, it's usually not too hard to find this kind of information. Usually if you look up, so let's say you have a fish in mind, so whatever fish it might be, just think of that fish and then look it up. Find another YouTube video on it perhaps, and just see where does that fish swim around that person's aquarium. So oftentimes you'll be able to identify, okay, this catfish, this Cory cat hangs out on the bottom, so it hangs out in the bottom third. And usually some of these tetras might hang out in the bottom third or maybe even the middle third. Then these rasboras, maybe these pencilfish, these killifish perhaps, will hang out more in the top third. So you can start to get ideas about how you can combine these different types of fish to create a more dynamic look, right? If all your fish are hanging out in the same area, it won't be as detailed, it won't feel as real. Usually in a lot of your wild ecosystems, there's not a whole lot. You usually have one fish that does one thing. So you have one fish that's like an open schooler that's going around kind of the middle water. And then you usually have maybe 2 different types of fish that hang out at the top of the water. And then a couple other types of fish that hang out at the bottom, right? There's going to be fish or shrimp, invertebrates, whatever it might be, there's going to be things living in all of these different areas, right? If you have a tangle of driftwood, so with this tank I have that big tangle of driftwood, I want to make sure that I have fish that are going to utilize that. Because in the wild, if there's a big tangle of driftwood on a riverbank or in a lake, there's going to be stuff that's living in there that's probably not living anywhere else. And so if I can find maybe one or two different types of fish or shrimp, whatever it might be, that lives in that driftwood, it can create a much more dynamic, a much more natural look, which really adds to the aquascape and can make it feel a bit more alive, a bit more real, like this is actually a slice of nature we just put in here. If I do if I do a whole bunch of one type, I won't get that natural feel. So with this aquarium with the big tangle of driftwood, I have a few different ideas. So I know that some different rasboras, like the dwarf emerald rasbora, would be a really good option because it's going to, or at least in my experience, I find that it likes to hide in driftwood. It likes to hide in the corners. It's a lot more secluded. It would really enjoy the dense areas of planting, the dense areas for all the driftwood, and that would be a really cool fish to potentially add. And then I can also I have it right in here. I have a clown pleco, and this clown pleco hangs out on the driftwood. It's really common just to see it just going up and down different pieces. So this is a fish that, if you had in I'll say regular aquarium, but maybe like a non-aquascaped aquarium, this fish might hang out more on the bottom, maybe hang out one piece of driftwood. But by having all of this driftwood in here, this fish has a lot more places that it can go. So if I have a clown pleco, let's say if I had maybe one or two other plecos, maybe I had just more clown plecos, maybe I had another species of pleco, I can get a more dynamic, more realistic look, because this is what you might find in the wild. You'd expect to find a bunch of different catfish and stuff hiding among the driftwood. So I like to think of my aquarium and my aquascape in terms of what are the different areas these fish can hide out in. With the cave, with the rocks, the sand. I like, cory cats are my natural reaction. Like, these fish like to dig around in the substrate for food. This is great to have a whole area with sand just for these fish. They can go over here, they can dig around for food, find everything that they want. And it provides this unique area for this fish to hang out in. So when I have the cory cats in the sand and in the caves, I have the pleco, in the future, if I add a few other fish, I'll have them hanging out around the driftwood. I have these tetras going back and forth as kind of my schooling fish. Then I have some different pencil fish or maybe even killifish to hang out around the top. I'll have a really natural looking, almost ecosystem mimicking aquarium. It'll be a lot more interesting to watch. Now, it's not always necessarily about what fish is going to be most outgoing either. So I also like to make sure that I get fish that are going to be outgoing, right? I want to have, like my tetras, they're very outgoing. They're not going to sit back and hide. They're schooling back and forth, looks really active, draws people into the aquarium. It's like, oh wow, look at all those fish go back and forth. That's really cool. You'll see them all the time. There's never a chance where you're not going to see those fish. But I want to make sure that I have some fish that I don't see all the time. So maybe like those plecos, to an extent, even the cory cats, I may not see them at first right away. So if I'm a bystander, I'm walking by your aquascape, I want to make sure that there's something in my aquascape to draw you in and to keep you looking for more. So you see the tetras going back and forth. It's like, oh wow, that's really active. That's really cool. Then you look a bit more. It's like, oh wow, look, there's cory cats down here, and oh look, there's a pleco on this piece of wood. Then as you look more and more, you might see, oh wow, look, there's these whole bunch of narite snails or mono shrimp. There's these pencil fish hanging out in the back. There's all of these different elements, and all of those added together. So just as a quick summary, I like to think of the aquarium in terms of thirds. You see your bottom third, your middle third, and your top third. Make sure you have something that's going to utilize that space if you have it. Then I like to think of what's in my aquarium. Do I have tons of plants, lots of driftwood, lots of rocks, and try to find fish that will utilize those areas of your aquarium to make it feel a bit more natural, just to be like, wow, look at that. Look at those fish swimming around those rock pile. That's really cool. And then I like to think of it in terms of, is there a lot here? Is there stuff that's going to draw people in, and is there stuff that's going to keep them looking? You want to have fish that are going to be more secluded, that you have to really look for and sit there and kind of stop and watch. Even for myself, the aquariums where I get this balance are very fun to watch because there's lots of activity on all the levels of your aquarium and all the areas of your aquarium. And I think it makes for a much more enjoyable aquascape, and it can really add a lot to a well-planted aquarium. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you've watched all the way to the end, please consider subscribing, liking the video. It just helps me out, helps me know if you guys are watching all the way to the end. If you have any comments, suggestions, questions, please leave those in the comment area below. I'm really curious to see what you guys think, or if you have any of your own tips for choosing fish. I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.